Hi, welcome to the Mad Max channel. So, do apologise for being quiet lately, simply because of work, family, kids, all sorts of other little things in between. So, today's video is about the Tier 8 Premium Destroyer in World of Warships, the LOYANG. Now, why would you want a Tier 8 Destroyer? Well, if you happen to be wanting the Yamato Commander, you need to go through certain particular missions that require a tier 8 or above destroyer, being particularly 9 or 10. But as a tier 8, you can get yourself through the slots. So, the LOYANG, originally designed as a American destroyer, then transferred over to people who happen to own it. You know, it's just one of those things. So, how is it like? What is it like? Well, it's like a typical American gunboat with two options of torpedoes, but further on to that one in a little bit. So as you can see, these here are the Yamamoto Izakuru mission sections, where you particularly need a tier 8 or above destroyer. If you don't happen to have one of these premium tier 8 destroyers happens to be quite useful. Now I've got a tier 6 and a tier 9 Fletcher, but obviously tier 9 Fletcher is not cheap to run, so having one of these destroyers here happens to be quite useful and handy. Besides that, it's not that particularly bad. So furthermore, onto that one, we'll be having a look in a bit during gameplay on stats of the ship, as well as a couple sections of how does it deal with battleship and a tier 10 destroyer. Well, tier 10 battleship too. So, let's just quickly compare how the LOYANG compares to a tier 9 destroyer, the Fletcher, now known as a very good destroyer. Survivability, well, it doesn't fare as well. Artillery, well, it's only 1 point less, which is bizarre really because the Fletcher has an extra gun on it. Turning rate of the LOYANG, the turrets are actually quick, very unlike the Chinese destroyers and stuff like that, where the turrets just take ages to turn. They actually do turn quite quickly. Not quite as quick as the Fletcher, I admit, surprisingly enough. Torpedoes, I don't know why there's a big point score difference between the two, but the Fletcher's torpedoes obviously has the range and the speed, where the LOYANG ones has a bit of both, but not as well. The usual situation with its guns is as followed. It has 4 turrets, 127mm, 5% fire chance, range, adequate for a destroyer. Can be improved, obviously, with different methods if you desire to do such a thing. It has 2 sets of 5 torpedo launches right in the middle. You know, you just need to hit that middle with it and then you can knock them out. Guns themselves, fairly accurate, not too slow in velocity, I'll admit. As it turns out, they're not too bad. You don't need too much of a lead, like certain other destroyers. Anti-aircraft weapon system, well, it was designed to be a bit of an American thing with plenty of firepower, but realistically, when I put it up against a X6 class aircraft carrier at tier 10, it only shot down 4 aircraft. Sure, I destroyed an aircraft carrier, but it just wasn't that particularly good. Health wise, well, typical for tier 8, nothing too special. Armor, not mentionable, doesn't really apply to it. The artillery systems, as previously mentioned, range could have been a little bit better, but as such it's fine. Rate of fire is great, you can't really complain. It is basically an American tier 8 destroyer minus a gun. Now, the equipment which I put on it, because it has 2 sets of torpedoes. Now, one being short range, faster, more damage, but which would be inside the ship's concealment. But with a concealment upgrade, you can get them torpedoes to also blind fire or cloak fire. but obviously it's not much of a difference. Now I'm using the concealment module 1, which does bring it down from 7.2 I think it was down to 6.4, which is a good drop in concealment range, but it's still just not enough in my thoughts for using the other ones. Even so, the other ones would be point blank range kill pretty much guaranteed, but you would have to get close enough. The long range ones being 9 kilometers, less damage and slower, they are a bit handicapped. I'm sure they're handicapped. They are slow. I mean, in the battle coming up in a minute with the tier 10 Yamato battleship, it becomes apparently obvious that a Yamato can dodge them. But this destroyer has a very useful feature behind it. Besides speed boost and the aircraft suppressive fire, it has hydroacoustics. So, as such, you would set this destroyer up, probably most likely as a gunboat to destroy enemy destroyers. Now, whether you would use the short range torpedoes or long range torpedoes depends on if you want to be a destroyer hunter or a bit of both. I mean, sure, there's nothing wrong with scouting into a smoke screen and using your hydroacoustic to find an enemy destroyer, and then using your slightly slower torpedoes and hope you hit them. But beyond that, I think there's no other way of deciding that besides let's have a look how she handles in game. Now, just sent off a set of torpedoes off to Yamato. Speed ahead a little bit, capped out the circle, and he's trying to cap it. So, 2 sets of widespread torpedoes. Now, this is obviously an AI bot. And, right, we have a torpedo hit. But what's going on here? Well, only one single torpedo hit, as per usual. Must have hit a torpedo bulge too, because only 5,000 damage with it. So, we did cause flooding, and he's obviously put out, so let's try and do some fire. How hard could that be? Steering rod on this ship, yes, and propulsion system, as any typical destroyer, is awfully vulnerable. What we're doing is preventing the inevitable fact that he's going to cap that out. Now we lose propulsion, steering and torpedo set. Right, we'll better fix and do the typical destroy thing, or she'll hide for a little bit.
Problem solved, sir.
Right, skip ahead a little bit. He's now doing a more or less typical thing with a battleship. I'm trying to race from one place to the next. Partly straight line. How hard could it be to hit him? Then I do a widespread, thinking, do I do another widespread? These torpedoes are quite slow. He's obviously just spotted him, so he's going to start doing evasive maneuvers. How hard could it be to kill a bot battleship driver? Well, it's actually quite a lot harder than you think. And unlike something like a shimakaze, which can kill the Yamato quite easily, yes, you just heard that right, a tier 2 destroyer can kill this battleship quicker than a tier 8. Doesn't make sense really. Unless of course I got point blank range and fired all of them broadside into them. But you just never really get that choice really. Unless of course you hide behind an island, which there's no setup like this here. So we're going on a certain particular technique which battleship drivers like to use, and that's being out in open. no islands to hide behind, and that's ideally what you want to do with a battleship versus a destroyer. Being out in the open, plenty of space to maneuver, no islands to crash into, no islands for a destroyer to hide behind. And I'll tell you what, the bot does a very good job of dodging these torpedoes. Setting up for another round of torpedoes. Typical torpedo reload times, way too long. You never have enough of them out in the water. Oh, looks like we're going to have a connect here. Probably one or two. Oh, one torpedo. Hooray. However, he is doing a turn maneuver. You get to see how slow they are. It's like a slow motion video game section here. Another torpedo hit. And he's bleeding health. Finally. Right, setting up for another torpedo round while he's been bleeding his health away. Might have one single lucky torpedo. This battleship just does not want to die. He's obviously used a repair kit at some point and regained some health back. Second set of torpedoes ran out of steam. Oh, right, let's use guns. We do have them. We do have a certain amount of range. Next, and preferably last set of torpedoes out and on the way. We can just watch them slowly move towards them. Well, so far I've not exactly had much nice to say about the torpedoes behind this destroyer. Now, they are torpedoes. They do have range where you can fire while you're not particularly being seen, but they're just not particularly fast. The guns themselves, they're good, but they don't start enough fires for my taste. Right, anyway, tier 10 game versus a shimakaze. Now, shimakaze not exactly known for having great defensive weaponry system, but will show the usefulness of its hydroacoustic system. There's the shimakaze. We'll spot them first. We'll fire a set of torpedoes off. We'll fire off the other set. We might need it. Well, looks like it was complete enough to waste the time find those torpedoes, because they're not going to get anywhere near. So, if I was to pick a one-on-one, who's going to win, me versus shimakaze with gunfight alone, I'd say, well, it's quite close actually. Shimakaze doing what a shimakaze does best. I shall hide in the smoke and fire torpedoes randomly in your direction.
Torpedoes dead ahead. Torpedoes direct. The ship is on fire.
Well, dodged them all. Well, I can see you, but can you see me? Ah, that makes no sense. He's in the smoke. Hydro on, and the case off. Who would win this gunfight? Well, my health is dying quickly, but his is gonna die even quicker. That'll do. Now, to the simple thing of real life scenario. Yes, third from the top as a destroyer. Did quite a lot of damage, sunk 2 ships. It is a good destroyer. It is needed, potentially, wanted, yeah. Guns, yeah. Torpedoes, yeah. It's an alright ship. You can't particularly say it's great in any particular thing. The hydroacoustic is an awesome part. But anyway, down to the point of it, would I say get one? Yeah, why not? If you got spare cash, why not? So, on that point, I would like to say thank you very much for watching. I will be getting more videos uploaded as soon as humanly possible. And I hope you've had a nice Christmas, and I wish you a happy new year, and I'll see you in the new year. Thanks for watching, and cheerio.